This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning. I'd like to welcome everybody on behalf of the Nacogdoches County Chamber of Commerce and the Nacogdoches Economic Development Corporation and our sponsor, Piney Woods Apartment Association, to the host a virtual meeting like a pro. I'm going to start out and I'm going to introduce David Carrizales. David is the Vice President for eTech. His responsibility include overseeing eTech's 6 onshore centers and nearshore, Montego Bay, Jamaica Center. He has been in business for over 21 years and is passionate about serving others. He has been an active member of our community ever since he returned to East Texas over 6 years ago. He has served on the board of directors for the Nacogdoches County Chamber of Commerce, is a 2015-16 graduate of Leadership Nacogdoches, and is currently serving on the board for the Boys and Girls Clubs of Angelina County College Board of Education, the SBRC Board for the United Methodist Church of Lufkin, and is on the board for the United Way of Nacogdoches.
Thank you, Barbara.
You're welcome.
Wonderful. Well, first of all, good morning to everybody. Thank you for being here today. And as always, I want to say thank you on behalf of Matt Rocco, our president and CEO, and our executive team, and to all of you in the Chamber and NETCO for really just allowing us the opportunity to present to all of you today. You know, at eTech, our vision is to make a remarkable difference for each other, our clients, and our community. As Martin Luther King said, everybody can be great because everybody can serve. So as a servant-led organization, we are extremely blessed and appreciative to have opportunities to be of service, especially during these times. It's a different time. We hear the new normal, but it's not a new normal anymore. It is now an official normal. And but as we look at different things like that, people often talk about all the things that the businesses around here do for the community and the chamber. But I would tell you, it's programs like this that remind us all how blessed we are to have a community and the chamber and leaders and NETCO and everything that like that actually give back to all of us through events and programs like this. These are things that don't have to happen, but that our community leaders take it upon themselves to say, hey, you know what, we want to give back to our businesses and the community through education and different types of programs. So it is a nice thing. With all the changes that we've really faced in 2020, I'll tell you this, eTech has really been called upon to use our 12 character commitments to carry us through it. And as I was telling Barbara earlier, probably one of the biggest ones that we've leaned on is our need to be adaptable. Right now, what we've always done as a company is communicate globally. We have centers, you know, all over the globe, in India, in Montego Bay, and of course in Texas, Dallas, Houston. So we've always used technology to our advantage to be able to communicate effectively. But with the increased need this year with COVID and everything happening, we've seen our need to really adjust. And we've had several, you know, a lot of our clients or a lot of businesses, a lot of different things, they're adjusting to using technology maybe for the first time. They're used to getting on an airplane, flying up, talking face to face. And so they've really had to look at and adapt themselves to how can we effectively communicate in these times. And so you see all of you on here have probably been on either a Zoom call, a GoToMeeting, you're using WhatsApp, Teams, Google Hangout. It just seems that's just to name a few of them, but it seems that everyone has their favorite. So you kind of got to be comfortable enough to understand and utilize all the different platforms. And so you have these meetings and some of them last forever. And you're like, my goodness, you know, there's a couple of meetings that were 4 hours long and I cannot sit down for 4 hours. So it's really difficult to be able to do that. But then you're actually more intrigued. You're trying to see what's in people's backgrounds. What are those? Are sirens or kids or dogs or everything like that? And you're worried about maybe if your kids are about to come crashing in through the door, what's happening? So your engagement is a little bit different. And instead of being, you know, locked into what you're trying to do, you got so many different distractions. And so It's extremely important when you're doing these meetings to be concise, direct, have an agenda, proper etiquette, like get dressed, things like that. Always feel like your camera can be on. So essentially, you have to know the ins and outs of hosting a virtual meeting like a pro. So with that said, I'm pleased and honored to introduce our resident pro, which is Randall Upshaw Simon. She's going to lead this today, and I'm so blessed that when we were reached out to do this presentation, to pick up the phone and talk to our leadership and development team, and they were quick to say, absolutely, we would love the opportunity to present. So it's my pleasure to sit and experience Randall do what she does best. She's extremely passionate about providing impactful and engaging training solutions for leaders. She's committed to delivering valuable information in a way that is relatable and enjoyable. That's a big piece, right? Relatable and enjoyable, with the intent to drive results and improve lives within the workplace, because that's what we all want to do. So she's our current global leadership development corporate trainer for eTech. She trains leaders in the United States, Jamaica, and India. She's also the proud owner of Randall Upshaw Learning Solutions, and training and development company that she's launching in October of 2020. So with that said, one of our best servant leaders, Randall, I will hand it over to you and let you do what you do. Thanks,
awesome.
everybody.
Awesome. DC, thank you so much for that introduction. I am, first and foremost, like he said, my name is Randall Upshaw Simon. I got to get used to adding that Simon on there. Just recently got married. So Randall Upshaw Simon, I am eTech's Global Leadership Development Corporate Trainer, okay? First and foremost, I do want to say that I am thankful and blessed for this opportunity. Not everyone gets an opportunity to train for leaders in the Chamber of Commerce. So I am very, very blessed to be here. And I'm thankful that eTech thought enough of me to give me this opportunity, okay? My ultimate goal for this training session is to do two things. I want to make sure that I am impactful, and I want to make sure that this session is very, very interactive and engaging. So that means I need your help with participation, okay? I need you to participate. So what I want you to do is locate the little comment bubble. You should see a little comment bubble here on your screen. Click that and say hello in the chat for me so I know that you can access the chat. We'll be utilizing the chat, and some of you, I will go ahead and call on you so that you can come in verbally as well. And if you don't, okay, I see those howdy. I see a howdy. I see a hey. Good morning, James. Good morning, Barbara, Kelly. Okay, very good. Veronica is here. My boss, Melissa Wood, is here. I'm seeing Ben Johnson, Nicolette Birch. Some familiar names are in here, and I'm excited about that, all right? So I want to let you know that participation is key. You are going to get out of it what you put into it, okay? The ultimate goal is to not be this guy. Okay, when you're silent throughout the whole Zoom meeting and you come in at the end and you say thanks everyone and you say it seems like you contributed, but you really did. Look, don't be this guy. Okay, so the ultimate goal is to really engage and have an impactful session. Okay, like I said, we'll be utilizing the chat feature as well as talking verbally. Okay, so to go ahead and kick off today's meeting, I want to get to know you a little bit, because to be honest, you don't know me like that. I'm not in the chamber, and so I'm a new face. So I want to get to know you, and I want you to have an opportunity to get to know a little bit about me. So what I want you to do is dive into the chat right now. Tell me your name, okay? As well as how long you've been with the chamber. I see Amber Till in there. That's my buddy and my classmate. Good morning, Amber. So you're going to tell me your company, your title, as well as how long you've been with the chamber. Now, if you're not in the Chamber of Commerce, go ahead and tell me how long you've been a leader. So dive into the chat. Tell me your company, your title, how long you've been with the chamber, or how long you've been in leadership. So let me see who, I want to get to know you just a little bit. Let's see. Worked with the chamber for 2 years, okay, I'm a business owner. And I've been a chamber member for 8 years. Awesome, good morning, Sherry. Let's see, clinical coordinator at the Burke Center, very cool, 5 months in the supervisor position, very cool. Good morning, James, very good. Barbara has been with the chamber for 12 years. Man, awesome, Barbara, and thank you for having me. Let's see. Chamber since I moved back, 6.5 years. DC, very cool. 5 years in leadership, very nice. Good morning, Claire. Ben has been in his industry for 22 years. Ben, I did not know that. I'm learning something new about you this morning. Very good. Let's see. Kelly has been a member for 1 year. Awesome, awesome. Good morning, Kelly. Wayne has been a member for 4 years. Awesome. Good morning, Wayne. Let's see here. 5 years with the chamber. Awesome. Good morning, Mary. So I'm so glad that you're utilizing that chat feature, that you're going ahead and warming up for me this morning. I just wanted to take the time to get to know the folks in this session. And I am not with the chamber, but I've been in leadership for about 7 to 8 years. And I've been working with E-Tech for going on 4 years. Okay, so very, very cool. And that's actually going to segue me right into our icebreaker, which is talking a little bit about communication. Okay, so now that I know for a fact I'm dealing with experienced leaders, okay, I know that I'm dealing with experienced leaders. At some point throughout the duration of your career, I know that you have been trained on communication in some form or fashion, right? Whether it's at the beginning of your career or now. So what I want you to do is to imagine that you are the expert in communication. You are the expert in communication. Dive into the chat. Give me one piece of advice that you would give a new leader or a new business owner learning about communication for the first time. Dive into the chat. Tell me one piece of advice that you would give a new leader or a new business owner that's learning about communication for the first time. I'm saying that, yes, you definitely need to listen. That's a big one. Very good. Make eye contact. Yes, very good. What else? Let's see. Listen more than you talk. Let's talk about that 80-20 rule. We learned that here at E-Tech. Very good. Do it often and keep it relevant. Yes, be learning on an ongoing basis. Ears. Very good. Relationships matter. Mary, I love that. Relationships do matter. Know your audience. Very good. Don't just listen to reply. That's it. Listen to understand, right? What got you here won't get you there. Very good. I love all of those responses. So very, very good. Let's hit question number 2. Okay. When they transition from a beginner to an expert in communication, what are some obstacles that they must overcome? When they transition from a beginner to an expert in communication, what are some obstacles you know for a fact they're going to have to overcome? Give me an example in the chat. Hidden biases, absolutely. Got to overcome those. Definitely. That's a good one, James. Taking over the conversation. Yes, being a conversation hog. You've got to figure that out and overcome that. That's not good. Always or assuming that you know the answer. Yeah, at E-Tech we talk about the 5 whys, where you ask why 5 times to get to the root cause and make sure that you have a thorough understanding. Very good. Different individuals perceive your communication differently. Yeah, here at E-Tech, we train a little bit on bird styles. You may know it as the DISC style, to make sure that we are understanding who we are and who other people are in relation to us. Okay, very good. Overcoming the objection. Very good, very good. Difficult conversations or fear of addressing those difficult conversations. Yeah, so all of these, y'all are talking like you got a little bit of experience, coming from a place of experience. So very, very good. Let's knock out this last question. What advice would you give an experienced leader trying to master communication while hosting a virtual meeting? What advice would you give an experienced leader trying to master communication while hosting a virtual meeting? Yeah, just keep it. Yeah, remember the basics, James. I'm always remembering that phrase. Just do the basics well, right? Keep it simple and do the basics well. That's a good one. Focus on engagement. Engagement is key. You see how fast this chat is going? Engagement is key. Keep their attention. Absolutely. Keep people engaged, make it interesting. All of those are absolutely correct, okay? And we're going to talk a little bit about those today. So today we're talking about how to host a virtual meeting like a pro, but really it all boils down to one thing: communication. How are you communicating prior to your online meeting, and how are you communicating during? how effective is your communication beforehand, and how effective is your communication during the meeting, okay? So we are actually going to break these tips up into two categories: preparation and hosting. How are you preparing, and how are you hosting the meeting? Okay, the first two tips will be under preparation, and the last tips will be under hosting. All right, dive into the chat, say I'm ready if you're ready for me to dive into these tips, so I know that you are ready. Dive into the chat, say I'm ready. All right, very good. Ready. Let's get to this first one. First and foremost, you want to make
Randall, I can't hear you. Can anybody hear me?
I hear you, Barbara. She just
Okay.
froze.
Randall, you just froze.
I'm going to give her a quick call. This is Veronica.
Sometimes if you turn off your camera, then we'll be able to hear you.
I've got her on message here. This is Melissa Wood. Thank you guys for joining. Look, we get right. You would think Randall did this intentionally as we talk about preparing for the use of technology. So we'll give her just a minute to get signed back on. If you guys will give us about 1 minute, 60 seconds. And if not, we'll just pick up where she left off.
Uh-oh.
This conference will now be recorded.
You're back. Randall, can you hear us? You're on mute.
Can you hear me? Can you hear my voice? Can you see my PowerPoint?
I can hear your voice and see your PowerPoint. It still shows you as an organizer.
We can see.
I got a notification. As soon as I talked about technology, I got a notification saying that I lost connection. All right. So everybody can hear me, you can see me, and you can hear my voice.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Let's try this again. Okay. Speaking of technology, you can't control it, as you can see. As you can see, you cannot control technology. All right. As soon as I was about to talk about that, something happened, right? But you do want to make sure that you understand technology. Okay. What I like to do is like Mary said, good timing, right? I promise. Just trying to stress me out. Okay. But I like to do what's called a technology check. Do that about 30 minutes beforehand, where I log in. I make sure that I have both of my devices set up properly. I make sure that I understand and I know where the chat buttons are, okay? I know where the mute button is or the mute all button is. Dive into the chat. Tell me why you think that feature may be important. To be able to mute everyone or to mute certain individuals. Why is it important to know where that feature is? Why is it important to me? Yeah, background noise, right? A lot of us are working from home. We're learning how to manage distractions. We're figuring all of this out. I will never forget and I will say this, you can't control all background noise, right? DC talked a little bit about your kids may pop in, or you just never know what's going on. One time we were having a SAM meeting, and I have a wonderful, the most amazing partner I could ever have in India, and his name is Mayank. And we were talking about strategy, leadership development, and all of a sudden we heard this weird noise. He was like, oh, don't mind that. It's just the peacock outside. You can't control the peacock outside, right? But we can have the ability to mute people. So make sure that you take the time to understand your technology in advance. Give me a you can't give me a thumbs up, but let's say good to go in the chat if you understand this, and feel free to come in verbally if you have any questions for me. Good to go. We understand the importance. All right. And all this is proactiveness, making sure that we are proactive before we even go into our meeting or our training session. All right. Number two is make sure that you know your audience. Actually, somebody in the chat earlier said, know your audience. So know your audience and make sure that you are setting expectations in advance. If you have certain expectations regarding etiquette, so you want people to make sure that their background is clean. You want people to have their camera on. Give people a heads up about their camera being on, right? You also want to manage background noise. Send meeting assignments in advance. DC talked a little bit DC talked a little bit about the importance of having an agenda. All that is proactiveness, making sure that you assign Claire topic A or Mary topic B in advance so they know the order that the meeting is expected to go in. You can also send software instructions prior to. So you should have gotten an email or a notification of some sort with a link in there with a passcode so that you can access the meeting. The same communication that went out regarding this meeting, that's the same thing you need to do in advance. Make sure people know how to use Zoom, Teams, GoToMeeting, whatever your platform is. Take time to educate your people prior to your meeting, okay? And you also want to let people know, hey, this session is going to be engaging, so come prepared to participate, all right? So tip number two, again, is make sure that you know your audience and prepare to set expectations in advance. Now, I will say this. My pro tip is to set expectations in advance, but I also like to set expectations in the beginning. If you notice, in the beginning of this session, what did I say? Hey, I need your help with participation. Participation is key. You get out of it what you put into it, okay? So you can steal that from me. That is just another form of setting expectations in the beginning of the session. What questions do you have so far? You can type your questions in the chat, or you can come in verbally and ask a question. Let's see. Yeah, Community Action had practice meetings when we initially moved into more virtual meetings. You absolutely need to have practice meetings, okay? No agenda, just to practice. Worked great. Karen, that's a great recommendation. That's a great recommendation. Awesome, awesome. Very good. Any questions? All right. Let's dive into the actual hosting of the meeting, okay? The actual hosting of the meeting. First and foremost, you set the tone for the meeting. If you come in and you're all sad or you don't really like this because you like interacting with people in the workplace and you have low energy, you haven't had your coffee yet, what is that tone and mood going to do to your meeting? If you're sluggish, you're not positive, what is that going to do to your session? Dive into the chat, let me know. Yeah, it's going to be boring. You will influence everyone else. That's exactly, you're going to put people to sleep. That's what Claire said. Very good. So you set the tone for your meeting, right? If you want a positive session, you need to come to the session with positive energy. If you want people to be actively engaged, you need to make sure that your body language is active and engaging, all right? If you want people to be prepared, you need to make sure that you're prepared, okay? If you want people to manage distractions, you make sure that you are managing distractions as well. You set the tone and you set the example in your meeting, okay? So always, always, always remember to lead by example. What did Melissa say? Makes me want to hang up. Yeah, death by virtual meeting. That's exactly right. And we've all been there, especially now because we're on so many virtual calls. Make sure you're not that leader or that facilitator, all right? What questions do you have about making sure that you set the tone for your meeting? What questions do you have about making sure that you set the tone for your meeting?
Randall, I have a question. So can you give us, you seem so energized, you didn't let the technology throw you off. Can you kind of give us what you do to kind of get pepped up for the call? Like, do you listen to some music? You come out like a boxer? What do you do? How do you get yourself all pepped up for the call?
I have a routine. I have to get up at least 2 hours in advance. I take time, I take my shower, and then I go pray. I'm just being honest with you, okay? And then I go have my cup of coffee, and then I probably pray again 2 or 3 more times to get my jitters out, and then I text somebody else and I ask them to pray for me, all right? And then I get on my session and I just say, hey, you know, I'm going to do my best to facilitate this remarkably, and I just dive in. Now, when things go haywire, I've been facilitating now for almost 4 years. I'm used to little things going left, even if I've done all the preparation in the world. Like this morning, I prepared for everything and lost internet connection just a little bit. You can't allow those little things to stress you out. All I do is focus on a solution and make sure that I'm maintaining energy, because if I get discouraged and overwhelmed, other people are going to see that and feel that, and they will become disengaged as a result. So that's just kind of how I address it. Melissa, does that answer your question?
Perfect. Thank you, Randall.
Okay, here's what I want you to do. Dive into the chat. Tell me, what do you do when things go wrong after you've prepared and prepared and prepared, and your internet drops, or something with your technology goes wrong, or something happens? What do you do? What's your best tip or advice when things like that go wrong? Barbara, thank you so much. Prayer and coffee. That's it. That's what it boils down to for me. Prayer and coffee. Yeah, DC starts crying. Uh-oh. Make light of the situation. James, that's it, right? It happens to everybody. You can't control it, okay? So there's no need to dwell in that negativity. Be solution oriented, overcome it, and keep it going, all right? Just laugh about it. Yeah, that's exactly right. You learn with time. Honestly, Amber said, I just inhale and exhale. I inhale and exhale, right? Honestly, in the beginning, when I first started training, I may have beat myself up about it a little bit more than I do now. But now I just see it as, you did your preparation. You couldn't control it. Control the controllable. You may have heard that phrase, right? Control the controllable and be solution oriented moving forward. I'm loving this advice in the chat. So very, very good. I like the prayer and coffee. Prayer, coffee, and laugh. That's it. Very, very good. And thank you for your feedback in the chat. So again, this tip is making sure that you set the tone for your session, okay? Tip number 2 is to break the ice. What if I just came into the session and I said, okay, I'm going to give you 5 tips. Tip number 1 is, tip number 2 is, tip number 3 is. What would you have done? You probably would have started checking emails, probably started texting somebody. Yeah, James, I'm going to sleep. Going to sleep. What else? What else happens when you don't break the ice? What are some outcomes of not breaking that ice? Yeah, people don't want to engage, okay? People begin to tune out. There's absolutely no connection. What did I say? Hey, you don't know me and I don't know you, but we're going to fix that today. Tell me a little bit about yourself. That's me trying to break the ice. And yeah, Sherry said everyone starts to feel weird, right? So that's me breaking the ice, trying to bring a level of, trying to bring a human element into the session so that people remain engaged. Now, I encourage you to do the same things. I learned this one from my boss. She said, hey, describe your mood in a weather forecast. So when you get onto the meeting, you can say, describe your mood in a weather forecast. And some people may say sunshine, or some people may say cloudy, or whatever that is, but it allows you to kind of do a temperature check and figure out the mood of the people in your session so that you can adjust, to level up your energy so that they'll level up their energy. It just allows you to read the room, okay? So I encourage you to definitely break the ice in your session. One icebreaker that I love, especially now with everything that's going on, I love to ask people, what's one thing you're thankful for? Or what's one thing you're grateful for today? All right. And so, especially with everything going on now, it gets people thinking about, no matter what's going on in life today, there's always something to be grateful for. And that's always a good one to set the tone in your sessions. Okay. What questions do you have about breaking the ice? What questions do you have about breaking the ice? Okay. So I will go ahead and keep it pushing to this next one. The next one is the power of open-ended questions. I want you to think about this. There's a phrase, and that phrase goes, if you tell, you fail. If you tell, you fail. Dive into the chat. Tell me what you think that means. If you tell, you fail. What does that mean to you? If you tell, you fail. Yeah, it's only one-way communication. It's only one-way communication. What else could that mean? If you tell, you fail. Okay. You give your view and don't really allow others to give their opinions. That's exactly right. You are dominating the conversation and disengaging the other party. Exactly. That's exactly right. So, and really, this can be applied across the board. You can apply that in your virtual meetings. You can apply that in your coaching sessions, right? Making sure that I can't remember who said it. Someone earlier said, talk, listen more than you speak, or the 80-20 rule, right? Where you listen 80% and you talk 20%, okay? Making sure that you're asking open-ended questions to create dialogue in your meetings. As you can see, I'm asking your opinion, your feedback. What do you think? Because I can come in here and tell you what I think, and we can check some things off a list, but it's more impactful when you're asking those open-ended questions in your training sessions, okay? You want to get people's feedback, their insight, what are they thinking, and get people involved. This is a good way to get people actively involved and engaged in your sessions, all right? You know this, making sure that you are asking open-ended questions. What questions do you have about this tip? Type good to go in the chat if we're good to go on this one, so I know I can keep it pushing to the next step. Are we good to go? Good to go. All right, very good. My last tip is to make sure that you engage verbally and throughout the chat. All right, so here's what I want to do. How about DC? Come in verbally for me and tell me why you think it's important for us to engage verbally and via chat.
For me, I like to do it, Randall, because it makes sure, people can pop in and chat, see what other people are saying, and just kind of type the same thing in there.
Right.
Maybe they're not as engaged. Maybe they're just going through the motions. So when you ask somebody to come in verbally, you know that they still are there, that they are talking, especially like if a camera's off. We can't have our cameras on all the time. Like mine's off right now for fear that I might lose connection with you.
Yeah.
So, but again, it pulls people back in if you're starting to lose them, and it also puts everybody else on point, thinking that they might be the one that you're going to call on next.
That's it. That's on point. It just gives your session a little bit more variety. So as you can see, we love the chat feature, right? Everybody can't talk at the same time. It's not like having open discussion in a conference room or in the office, right? So the chat feature is beautiful. I absolutely love it. But what I don't want you to do is to rely so heavily on the chat that we neglect to have that verbal conversation. So you can always offer that as an option in your session, and you may just be having meetings where it's verbal only and the chat doesn't apply. I just encourage you to switch it up a little bit to maximize that learning experience. All right, what questions do you have about the importance of engaging verbally and engaging through chat? Any questions?
I have a question. Randall, what do you recommend when you have a large group, say 100 people, where you really wouldn't have time for each individual to chime in? If you've got an hour-long call or something, how do you handle that engagement and, with a group that size?
That's a great question. Thank you so much. So what I like to do, we host sessions every month called Take 5 Live, and those sessions average about anywhere between 40 and 60 people, okay? What I like to do in large groups like that is I rely heavier on the chat, just because it keeps people more engaged and everyone can talk at the same time, right? So I would apply maybe an 80-20 or a 90-10 rule in this particular case, where you rely on the chat 90% of the time or 80% of the time, and then you select people in the chat, say, hey, come in verbally for me and tell me what you think about this. That allows you to control it a little bit better. Let me know if that answers your question. Let me know if that properly answers your question.
Yeah, it does. And another thought that I had, Manpower obviously has relied heavily on Teams meetings during everything with COVID. And if it is a large group and a lot of people are responding to chat, they usually have one person that's going to facilitate the chat, kind of monitor the chat. And if there's a question, then they, ask the person that's the host. Because I can, for me, I know it would be difficult to be doing what you're doing, where you're leading this and keeping your conversation relative and then still going over here and reading what people are saying at the same time.
Yeah, and the only reason I know how to do it is because Melissa made me, my boss, she's in here today. She made me dive in and learn how to do those things simultaneously. But I actually have, my entire team is in the chat right now, Melissa, Mike, and Nicolette, and they help me manage my chat. So what you said is absolutely correct. Like Melissa is asking questions and she's typing out the things that I'm saying to make sure that, you know, you understand or you heard it. So having that designated person, that's a good thing if you have it, but being able to do them both simultaneously just takes practice, but it can be done. It can definitely be done. So thank you for that question. Any other questions? That was a great one.
That was a great question. And just a pro tip from Randall here, and the people on our team, they usually use multiple devices. So talk about that. So you can see, you're wondering how she can be so engaged in the chat and so engaged with us on screen. So she usually has her phone set up for just chat features and her laptop set up for audio and engagement. That way she can be working one system, looking at chats and watching you guys on the screen. So that's something we found to be very helpful, to use two devices, one for your chat feature and one for your screen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Right now I have two laptops set up. When I teach my sessions at eTech, I have two laptops and my phone. So what I do is I have my PowerPoint on laptop 1, right? I have my outline on laptop 2, and then during my session, I'm logged in and I'm engaging in the chat on my phone. So you can use those options to figure out what works best for you. Thank you, Melissa. I appreciate that. Any more questions? Okay. Well, I got a bonus tip for you. I know that I said I was only going to give you 6 tips, but I actually have one bonus tip, and this is to make sure that you give more breaks to avoid burnout. At the beginning of this session, or right before this session, we were talking about how exhausting online training can be and how exhausting these meetings can be, because you're sitting in one place all day staring at a screen, right? So be mindful that if you get tired, team members get tired, okay? What I like to do is every hour and a half to 2 hours, I give anywhere between a 5 to 15-minute break, depending on the time that I have available, all right? So I encourage you to give more breaks so that you do not burn out your team members. Now, in training, we have a concept called reading the room, where you pay attention to the people in your session. If they're really, really engaged, really diving in, really, really active in your chat, you know you're good to go. Once they start burning out and the chat slows down or the conversation slows down, you know people are getting tired. All right, people are getting tired. So you want to make sure that you give breaks to avoid that burnout. All right. And I'm going to leave you with this. Great communication begins with connection. Take the time to build connection before, when you're interacting with people, interacting with leaders, if you have that opportunity, because guess what? Today's session gave me a little bit more peace and a little bit more comfortable because I took time to communicate with Barbara all week. I've got DC in here. I've got Veronica and Melissa and Ben Johnson in here. People, Nicolette, Mike, that I'm familiar with them. I have a relationship with them. So it helps my sessions go smoother when I have an opportunity to build connection and improve communication in my sessions. Now, before I get out of here, because Barbara's probably like, this girl is talking too much, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up, okay? But I want you to dive into the chat. Give me one takeaway. What was your biggest takeaway on how you can host meetings better moving forward, online meetings better? What's your biggest takeaway? Yeah, icebreakers. Yes, absolutely. Icebreakers will change the dynamic of your session. Absolutely. Preparation is very important. Yes, yes, yes. And adaptability, even when how you've prepared, even when it doesn't go as you prepared, okay? Check your tech, yes. Don't let the technology scare you. It is a tool and things will happen. That's exactly right. Stay positive and engage. Control the tempo. I like that. Very, very good. Use multiple devices. Yes, that was a tip within a tip, right? So definitely you can have the option to use multiple devices. Again, I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for allowing this opportunity. Again, I am so blessed. I'm thankful that I have a group of folks who are adapting with me while I adjusted throughout the duration of this presentation. And I really, really hope that you found value in the tips that you got today. If you have any questions, I can have Barbara shoot you my email, and we can have one-on-one conversations to help you further. And as always, again, just thank you so much. And that will conclude today's session.
Thank you, Randall. That was full of some really great tips. Does anybody have any other questions for Randall at this moment? If not, I'm going to hand it over to Claire for our closing remarks.
Well, Randall, you really inspired me today. You energized me today. I was a little sluggish. I have to tell you, just, looking at what the topic was, I was thinking, oh, okay, I'm going to be able to catch up on emails. Oh, I'm going to be, my eyelids are going to get heavy, but it was completely the opposite. You did a fabulous job. And now that really sets the bar very high for other people that are leading these go-to meetings and things like that. So if everybody did as well as you, I wouldn't mind these calls much at all. So we just want to thank you for the time that you put into this, the prayer that you put into this. And we really, I personally learned a lot from it, and I feel like everybody on the call did as well. So thank you. We appreciate you, and so glad everyone was able to join in and participate in the call. And as Barbara said, if you have any questions, please get to her and she can get them to Randall. But I just want to thank you all, and I hope you all have a great Wednesday and a great rest of your week.
Thank you so
Bye,
much.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you again, and bye-bye. Y'all have a great day.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.